The suspense builds. Yes, it does. The talk heating up about the O's acquiring that guy, and the O's do acquire this guy, Luis Vázquez. Hello, Orioles fans and everybody else out there. I'm Jon Leiberman. Welcome to Orioles Digest. Big news as the Orioles make a trade and are in the heat of potentially making another blockbuster trade as well. Subscribe, like, we're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm Jon Leiberman. If you don't know who I am, years on television, America's Most Wanted, and TV across the country, and then on radio, on the Howard Stern Show, and my own show on Sirius XM as well. And as you now know, I am a diehard Orioles fan. I always like to show you something. This is the six-pack of Coke from 1995 when Rip broke the consecutive games record. That's in the past. The Orioles are now focused on the future, and let me tell you about the trade. Today, the Orioles trade cash for this man, infielder Luis Vázquez, formerly of the Chicago Cubs, now with the Orioles. Now, you may be saying, who is this guy? He only played 11 games during his first taste of the MLB last season. He went 1 for 12. He had an RBI. Really just was a defensive substitution. So why in the world would the Orioles pick him up? And at the same time, Emmanuel Rivera, who was quite impressive for the Birds last year. If you ask me, I mean, he was hit .313. He hit about 4 dingers. He really a strong present after the O's acquired him from the Marlins. He today was optioned, so he's gone to make room for Luis Vázquez. So then the question becomes why? What's the strategy here? How does Vázquez help the Birds? It's actually pretty simple. Number one, Vázquez still has options, and Rivera was out of options, so it gives the Orioles a lot more flexibility. And number two, it gives the Orioles a lot more defensive depth as well. So essentially, this appears to be almost a strategic shift in their roster composition. They're looking at defensive depth. They're looking at flexibility. The fact that Vázquez is an extremely good infielder from the defensive standpoint. It just gives the Orioles that much more flexibility. Is it the blockbuster that everybody is kind of waiting for in Birdland? No, of course it's not the blockbuster. But what Mike Elias seems to be doing at this point is building things block by block. So a lot of pickups this offseason, just trying to fill in certain strategic holes while we still all hold our breath for what is the big move? What is the big blockbuster? And we have news on that tonight because things are picking up when we're talking about this man, Michael King. So I want to just switch gears. I want to go to Mike Axisa of CBS Sports, writing today, with all due respect, Tomoyuki Sugano and late career Charlie Morton are not adequate replacements for Corbin Burnes. Baltimore traded for Burnes as a rental last offseason. They should do it again with King. They should do it again with King. And that is why we tell you the suspense is building. Is King going to head to the Birds on the heels of Luis Vázquez now becoming a Bird? And that is really the question. Sure, Jack Flaherty's still out there. Dylan Cease is still out there. There are other names out there. But at this point, most of the chatter, most of the talk, most of the buzz is around Michael King. Again, take a look at his numbers. 31 games, 173 innings pitched. He gave up 17 dingers, 201 strikeouts, an ERA sub-3, a very strong whip, and he does walk a bit of players. He does walk more than 3 per 9 innings, but still, Michael King could fit atop of that Orioles rotation very, very well. And as we saw with Mike Axis's, quote today and what he wrote, Sagano could have tremendous upside. No doubt about it. We don't know enough at this point about Sagano and what he might do to be able to make a judgment at this point to how impactful Sagano is going to be. If he's anywhere near the pitcher that he was overseas for the past several years, the Orioles, that could be the biggest signing of the offseason. Then you have Charlie Morton, that grizzled veteran in the middle of the, reminds you of Kyle Gibson, even though Gibson was asked to be a top of the rotation guy. Morton is that middle of the rotation, solid. He's going to eat innings. He's going to go out there every 5th day, and he's going to give you what you need from a number 3-ish starter. Grayson Rodriguez clearly, probably in that 2 spot if we pick somebody up. If not, he's in the 1 spot. The big question mark still, Kyle Bradish coming back from Tommy John. Tyler Wells coming back from Tommy John. John Means, still a free agent. We have to see where John Means ends up as well. But again, all eyes are focused squarely at this point on this man, Michael King, and the fact that if the Orioles were to acquire this 29-year-old, and look, nobody's saying that the price tag is going to be low. I mean, Michael King at this point is going to demand a premium. Probably Heston Kjerstad, probably Dean Kramer, and others. So he is going to command a premium to come to the Birds. But again, back to the news of this day, the pickup of the very speedy, the very young, lots of upside, Luis Vasquez comes to the Birds in exchange for cash. The O's drop Emmanuel Rivera. Vasquez has options, giving the Orioles flexibility and shoring up their defense. And again, the question remains, let me ask you, do you all want to see Michael King in Birdland, or do you think we'd have to give up too much, or do you think we can do better? I will see you next time. I'm Jon Leiberman for Orioles Digest.